Welcome. Our Alpha Manager for the day, Harish Krishnan, Executive Vice President and Senior Equities Fund Manager at Kotak AMC is joining us. Harish, good afternoon. Thanks a lot for joining us. How are you approaching this market, Harish? Because it's just relentless. Dips are hardly 1 or 2%. We haven't had a meaningful correction. In the last bull market, we had 3 or 4 instances of over 10% correction, 2 instances of 30% correction. This time we haven't even had a 10% correction.
That's right, Anuj. It's been a dream run from the lows. It's been almost, 18 months since we've seen a one-way kind of a move. So yes, it is. It is in that sense quite remarkable, both in terms of the ferocity of the move as well as the overall breadth of the move. One analysis that we had done recently was, we plotted the number of stocks which have doubled in any 5-year time frame. And currently, we are at almost 70% of the overall investable universe, which has doubled in the last 5 years. At least. And this is one of the strongest readings that we have had over the last 25 years. So it's been a fascinating ride so far, no doubt about it. But having said that, this is pretty much the rare view as how they've done. I think it gets a lot more interesting in the next 18 to 24 months, wherein we do see 2 or 3 key drivers coming through. First is we do expect that there are some companies which have genuinely improved their balance sheet and which were in which case, so to speak, batting on the front foot, even as India went through the GST change, RERA change, IBC change, a lot of those reforms pre-COVID. And we do think that those will be the companies that will compound wealth here onwards. The second aspect is clearly, and this is reference to the point that you just showcased, that of power shortages, etc. In my opinion, I think India as an economy is possibly, after a very long point of time, one of the best suited for exports. We've clearly seen how IT services have done extremely well. But even in terms of engineering, manufacturing exports, you've got commodity prices which are relatively cheaper in India compared to the rest of the world. You've got power costs which are cheaper in India compared to the rest of the world. And as we go into the winter seasons over the next 3, 4, 5 months, where the rest of the world is going to see shortages due to high energy prices, we are really in a sweet spot. And add to that, I think the icing on the cake has been that our currency has depreciated by anywhere between 10 to 12% against the Chinese yuan. So if you are an exporter, as a converter, these are possibly the best times that you can possibly envisage, where global demand is so strong and you've got such huge factor benefit advantages that I would be very surprised if they don't really make a huge amount of export from now. So broadly, that's the thinking, that we need to be a lot more selective. There are some pockets which are likely to improve their trajectories, but the overall breadth, in my opinion, will decline going forward, and we'll see a lot lesser number of stocks doing well over the course of the next 18, 24 months.
Harish, hi, Prashant here. I see ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, a couple other financial, Bajaj Finance, etc., in your portfolio. What will, I mean, it's to me at least, it's the most visible large sector where, valuations are not, valuations are okay. I mean, relative to its own historical averages, last 10, 15 years. So, the assets liability side, I mean, things are pretty okay. Growth though, is it going to come back strongly? Will that lead to the stocks performing well? Is that imminent? What is your sense?
Right, Prashant. So clearly, if you were to look at longer-term credit growth of India, we go through these decades, and I'm talking about 30, 40 years. We're not talking about 5, 7-year business cycles. There was a phase of massive consolidation where private credit didn't grow in the 90s. This was preceded by very strong growth in the 80s. 2000, again, we saw very strong growth, led by various factors. And 2010, that is the last 10 years, we've seen very tepid growth. So in some sense, this is a cyclical kind of a wave, wherein a lot of misallocation that had happened in the previous cycle got addressed. So as you rightly pointed out, I think the asset quality worries, at least for the larger franchises, are now kind of behind us. Obviously, there will be some incremental stress when we go through third wave, etc. But that is business as usual in that sense that obviously, if you are in the lending industry, some portion of your assets may potentially go bad. However, as you rightly pointed out, the key aspect is growth. And we do think that if one takes a slightly longer term view, growth is definitely here to come. The other challenge for a lot of these franchises has been that there is likely greater disruption in the fee income that a lot of these franchises have generated. So while there is the fund income element, which is linked to the credit growth, on the fee income side, obviously a lot of, especially the private sector banks, have done exceedingly well. And over there, we are starting to see disruption by fintechs, etc. So it's interesting to see how that evolves. But overall, we do think that these better franchises, the larger names, and as you rightly pointed out, valuations aren't as demanding as for the rest of the market, are therefore, in our opinion, good places to back them at this point of time.
Well, Harish, what do you make of the consumption stocks, both discretionary stocks, some of them are getting a little bit more expensive, as well as consumer staples? How would you position yourself on this basket?
Right, Nigel. So between these two, our preference is more to the consumer discretionary compared to consumer staples. Primarily, it is coming down from the fact that on the discretionary side, in our opinion, there are two elements that can potentially positively surprise. One is that there has been savings, which has been kind of forced savings by the top 10-15% of households, because a lot of their discretionary expenditure, be it travel, trips abroad, education, entertainment, all have been curtailed. And that has led to incrementally large savings pool. And there are varying estimates of what that number is. And it's a large number, especially for the top 10-15% of households. And as things normalize, a lot of that savings will suddenly come through in terms of a flood. And in my opinion, there can be potential revenge consumption in a lot of these categories, especially when it comes to travel, entertainment, etc. So that's one aspect. The second aspect is clearly we are starting to see the IT services and overall export, which is a meaningful employer, getting their act right. There's been a spurt in hiring activity across the board. And this again augurs well, because obviously more jobs, more purchasing power, especially in the top 10-15% cohort of households. We do think that consumer discretionary is in slightly better position. As far as consumer staples is concerned, we do think that at the bottom of the pyramid, that bottom 50% of households is where I would say that pre-COVID and post-COVID, there has been some amount of pressure. And while the government has done what it could in terms of food ration stocks, etc., in terms of livelihood and income that has got lost and savings that have got depleted, I do think that may manifest itself in terms of some problem in terms of bottom of pyramid consumption, and that is where quite a few consumer staples are. So we are a lot more selective out there and a lot more bullish on consumer discretionary. Relatively speaking.
Okay, and just an extension of that, in your Kotak Pioneer Fund, there's clearly a lot of exposure that you're taking to auto and ancillary stocks. There's Maruti, there's car trade if you want to include that. There's of course Bharat Forge, there's Motherson Sumi, there's Sona, BLW Precision. That's there. Are you betting big on a big revival? Is this more of a global play as well? If you could explain the rationale for some of these calls that you have taken.
Right. So from an auto sector, obviously, there are plays both on the domestic as well as the international side. On the domestic side, clearly, growth has underwhelmed for, if I take a block of 10 years, PV or cars, volumes have grown close to about 1% or 2% CAGR. And in a country like ours, whatever be the penetration levels, we do think that, from a medium-term perspective, that is bound to increase. And that is also underpinned by what I said about consumer discretionary in terms of both savings as well as incremental employment that's happening in a lot of sectors. As far as the global opportunity is concerned, again, globally also auto went into into a funk, from 2018 onwards, where there were specific issues. And of course, now it is manifesting in the form of chip shortages. And we do think that a lot of Indian auto ancillaries have that benefit, like I mentioned, as a converter. Energy costs are relatively cheaper. Commodity costs are relatively cheaper, and you have put in capacities during the downturn, and the global demand is starting to bounce back. So if you tie in all of this together, we do think that auto ancillaries are also going to be beneficiaries. The third aspect is, as you all know, auto is a cyclical industry. And if you were to plot auto and auto ancillary profits as a percentage of overall profits of India Inc., that typically oscillates between 2 to 7%. And currently we are at 2%. So we would rather bet in a down cycle when, there is definitely a lot of bad news. But we do think that, there is also the potential that when few of these catalysts do play out, it can lead to a very large, a kind of change of fortunes for a lot of these companies. And that explains our bullishness in the auto and auto ancillary space.
All right, Harish, it's great speaking with you. As always, thank you very much for joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Have a good weekend. We'll see you back soon. There's about, 20 minutes to go, a little over 20 minutes to go for market close. We're up 107, 108 points. 17,897 is where we are at. We take a very quick break here. We come back and we discuss what the RBI announced. The Reserve Bank has maintained status quo in its October policy, and Latha will be joining in with her editor's take on what this means for equity markets and bond and forex markets as well. Back in 2. And as always, we'll get you all the dealing room chatter in our segment, D Street Chatter, and the buy today, sell tomorrow calls from our technical experts in just a bit.